Σαν την υγεία σου έχασες, σαν την υγεία σου έχασες και θες να την κερδίσεις. Και θες να την κερδίσεις μόνο με βότανα της γης θα την ξαναποκτήσεις. Φύλλα κυτροπορτοκαλιάς, φύλλα κυτροπορτοκαλιάς κι άρωμα πολεμόνι. Κι άρωμα πολεμόνια, ανερατζά μανταρινιά, ξαρωστικό κιδόνι. Μάζοξε από τσιπόταμους, μάζοξε από τσιπόταμους, τσακονίζα στα χνάρια, τσακονίζα στα χνάρια, βάτο και τσάι του βουνού και τσαμπιστιά σκλονάρια. Μάζοξε έρωτα πολύ, μάζοξε έρωτα πολύ απ' τα βουνά Τσικρίτης, απ' τα βουνά Τσικρίτης και σφάκα την πικραδερή, δάφνες μυρτιές να βρίσκεις.
In anthropology, animism is the belief that all of nature, the elements, the plants and the animals, have spirits. These spirits are closely connected with humans. From the elements to the animals, from plants and trees to stones and mineral, the natural world is one of our most powerful sources of spirit, wonder and wisdom. The holistic healing philosophy of Greek medicine states that man is essentially a product of nature or the natural environment. Health is living in harmony with nature, and disease results when this harmony and balance are upset. Healing is restoring this lost harmony and integration. Man and all other living beings on this planet grew and evolved within this all-pervasive biosphere and have been relying on it for their survival, for food and medicine for millions of years. Our world blesses us with herbs, with leaves of life. If our world is sick and poisoned, then so are we. If the forests are being destroyed, then we die a little with each felling. Every whale that is respected and let live blesses us. Nettles are one of the most widely applicable plants we have. They strengthen and support the whole body. Throughout Europe, they are used as a spring tonic and general detoxifying remedy. In some cases of rheumatism and arthritis, they can be astoundingly successful. They are specific in cases of childhood eczema and beneficial in all the varieties of this condition, especially in nervous eczema. As an astringent, they may be used for nosebleeds or to relieve the symptoms wherever there is hemorrhage in the body, for example, in uterine hemorrhage. The herb should be collected when the flowers are in bloom.
Why I chose CIROS to run the Australasian College of Health Science summer session is I used to take students to Provence in France, and I'd been doing that for many years. And I first visited CIROS as on a holiday. I was on vacation, and of course wherever I go I like to look at the plants. I'm very interested in plants. I like hiking and I like to look at plants. And what really amazed me about CIROS was, other than it's a beautiful island, was that the variety of wild material here was just phenomenal. I had never seen such variety and diversity. I think it really connects people to what they're doing, even if it means that going back to the United States, going back to your clinic, working with your patients, you're working with pre-made herbal medicine. I think it gives you more appreciation for how important it is that the plant is vital, that it grows where it is best grown, that it the time it's gathered, the way it's gathered, all of these things have a huge impact on medicine. And I think what we teach here, and particularly what I teach in CIROS, because we can go out and collect so many plants, that students really come away realizing that all of these things are really, really important.
The term herbs refers to plants or parts of them, including grasses, flowers, berries, seeds, leaves, nuts, stems, stalks, and roots, which are used for their therapeutic and health-enhancing properties. Practical experience, either one's own or transmitted from one's teachers, is necessary to select the right herbs and medicines which actually work. The use of medicinal plants in healing is not exclusive to the human species. When an animal in the wild gets sick or feels out of sorts, it will stop eating and munch on some healing herbs until it feels better. Herbal medicine amongst humans first evolved as an imitation of this universal healing practice of the animal kingdom. And so, herbal medicine is a universal practice among all the world's traditional medical systems, which developed systems or models of herbal healing based on the holistic healing principles and concepts inherent to that system. Greek medicine is no exception to this rule, and bases its own system of herbal medicine upon its core concepts: the four basic qualities, the four elements, the four humors, and the four temperaments. The practical details of Greek medicine's system of herbal healing grew out of the accumulated clinical experience of generations of Greek physicians. Any system of herbal medicine, to be viable, must have both a theoretical and a practical aspect. Theory is necessary to guide the observations and hypotheses of the physician in formulating a diagnosis and treatment strategy. Practical experience, either one's own or transmitted from one's teachers, is necessary to select the right herbs and medicines which actually work.
Initially, I just kept it up on the veranda where it was warm, but quite. When we look at plants in relationship to natural medicine, we don't, even though it's interesting to us what is within each plant and what makes the plant work in the body, and that's called the active constituent, we don't necessarily want to isolate that one active constituent and use only that. That is not what herbal medicine is about, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's very important to use the whole plant. Whole plants have what we call synergy, and synergy is a very important concept, meaning that one active constituent might actually work more effectively because of the relationship with the other constituents within the plant. There has been some research to show that synergy is actually, it is correct. Research shows that synergy is a very important part of plant medicine.
Peppermint is an excellent carminative. Having a relaxing effect on the muscles of the digestive system, combats flatulence and stimulates bile and digestive juice flow. It is used to relieve intestinal colic, flatulent dyspepsia, and associated conditions. The volatile oil acts as a mild anesthetic to the stomach wall, which allays feelings of nausea and the desire to vomit. It helps to relieve the nausea and vomiting of pregnancy and travel sickness. Peppermint can play a role in the treatment of ulcerative conditions of the bowels. It is a traditional treatment of fevers, colds, and influenza. As an inhalant, it is used as temporary relief for nasal catarrh. Where headaches are associated with digestion, peppermint may help. As a nervine, it eases anxiety and tension. In painful periods, it relieves the pain and eases associated tension. Externally, it is used to relieve itching and inflammations. The aerial parts are collected just before the flowers open. Hippocrates, in his writings, warns against the dangers of letting theory jump too far ahead of clinical practice, and that actually produces results. Stressing the necessity of tradition and a practical approach, he said, "Foolish the doctor who despises knowledge acquired by the ancients."
Plants are very intimately connected to natural medicine. Plants, and the use of plants for natural medicine goes back a long way in history, particularly here in Greece. Famous people like Dioscorides and Hippocrates had an intimate knowledge of plants, and what we do here on Syros is the plants are very important to us. We gather plants, we make essential oils from plants, we make flower essences from the plants, and we really rely on the plants tremendously. And here in Syros there's such a huge variety, which is fantastic. On Syros alone there's about 580 different species of plants and about maybe 85 different plant families. So that's a huge, almost plant library to choose from. So there's a very strong connection, very important. I'm taking about 6, and you could even take a little less than that. Because I'm doing the base, it's a little longer. Probably once I get up to here, I maybe want to just cut. Scrap of this for this. Yeah. So it's looking like that. Any questions? Okay, let's go. We've got a lot of plant to harvest. The yield, the essential oil yield from Helichrysum is fairly low, so we're going to need a lot of material. Okay. Every year it's a little different because we have to work with the plants, and every year the plants are a little different. Each season is different. It might be drier or whatever. So usually I arrive here about 2 weeks before summer session. I usually scout the area and see what plants I can work with. I mean, the students really love to work with Helichrysum. Helichrysum is a very important plant. Its name, Helios, sun. It's a fabulous plant. It has a lot of potential. We've made infused oils from it. We've made essential oils. The other plant that I really love is the thyme here, so I hope that next year we'll also be gathering the thyme. It's a particularly interesting thyme here. I have had it analysed, and it has a very interesting profile. Unfortunately, the season we're here, pretty much the sage, the Salvia triloba, is finished. It's not at its optimal time to gather it. And this is one thing I like to teach. Don't just take the plant because it's there. It's very important that we wildcraft with awareness. And if it's not the right time to take a plant, I won't take it. I'll take students and show them the plant, and we'll learn about the plant, but we won't harvest it because the medicine we're going to make will not be as good as if we had taken it in the correct time. I like to harvest the hypericum, and I'm hoping next year that we get to do that. This year too we'll be making flower essences, and we'll be using both the hypericum, which is St. John's wort, and the great horned poppy, which is an interesting plant I found here, and I have not actually found in the United States growing wild. What I would really love to be able to harvest if I was here in the right season, and if I could find enough of it, is the rock rose. I'm really very interested in cyst. If I could find it at the right time, I think it could be harvested. But by June, it's pretty much over. The Vitex too, I have thought about coming back in the fall or in the autumn and gathering the seed, dry it and keep it for a year and distill it the following year. It's still going to be viable. So those are all plants that I'm very excited to use.
Chasteberry has the effect of stimulating and normalizing pituitary gland functions, especially its progesterone function. It may be called an amphoteric remedy, as it can produce apparently opposite effects, though in truth it is simply normalizing. It has, for instance, a reputation as both an aphrodisiac and an anaphrodisiac. The greatest use of chasteberry lies in normalizing the activity of female sex hormones, and it is thus indicated of dysmenorrhea, premenstrual stress, and other disorders related to hormone function. It is especially beneficial during menopausal changes. In a similar way, it may be used to aid the body to regain a natural balance after the use of birth control pill. For women who are trying to get pregnant, Vitex may be helpful to regulate the ovulatory cycle. In one carefully controlled study with 100 nursing mothers, it was found that women who took Vitex had an increased milk flow compared to women who took a placebo. Later research showed that the best way to stimulate milk production is to take Vitex the first 10 days after birth. The very dark berries should be picked when ripe, which is between October and November. Milk thistle can be used to increase the secretion and flow of bile from the liver and gallbladder. Its traditional use as a liver tonic has been supported by research showing that it contains constituents which protect liver cells from chemical damage. Historically, this herb has been used in Europe as a liver tonic, and current phytotherapy indicates its use in a whole range of liver and gallbladder conditions, including hepatitis and cirrhosis. It may also have a value in the treatment of chronic uterine problems. A wealth of research done in Germany is revealing exciting data about reversal of toxic liver damage, as well as protection from potential hepatotoxic agents. The mature seed heads are cut and stored in a warm place. After a few days, the heads are tapped and the seed is collected. Chemical medicine started and continues with isolating the plant's drastic molecules and then being able to reproduce them in laboratory conditions. Nevertheless, it has never been able to imitate nature perfectly. For example, scurvy has never been cured using synthetic vitamin C, but the natural vitamin found in fruit and vegetables. Herbal medicines are superior to synthetic drugs because they have the nutritive value that the drugs lack.
Natural medicine is really using a wide variety of what we call modalities to achieve wellness. Herbs are a very important part of that. Plants give us an enormous range of what we call active constituents, and using herbs for medicine is a very important part of what we do. I mean, some plants were taken from the wild, and actually the active constituent has been isolated and manufactured in the lab, like for example digitalis, that is now a very important cardiac herb, Of course, it's not a plant that we would necessarily use because it's a very powerful plant and maybe too powerful for a herbalist to use, but it's a good example of a plant being used by allopathic medicine.
My approach to research is to let's understand these systems that Mother Nature has in place and learn from them, and hopefully this will be a more environmentally friendly way of dealing with life and controlling things if we feel that we have to. An example is one of, I think, my most important research areas has been to look at see how cedar trees control insects, both killing insects and controlling insects as repellents for the protection of human health, because there are many very bad diseases still in the world, such as malaria, dengue fever, West Nile virus, etc., that are spread by arthropod vectors. And so in joint research over the last 10 years with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, we have I have isolated the compounds that kill and repel insects and sent them to the Centers for Disease Control. They do the biological testing, and we've had some very exciting results. We feel we now have pesticides and repellents that are safer for people to use and safer for the environment.
The environment, nature, of which man is part, is the first laboratory for producing medicines.
We finally realized that there are a lot of trees that have played a pivotal role in history at some time, sometimes just by giving us humans one product. Aspirin, I know it's one of your favorites, from the willow tree. The eucalyptus tree is well known for its essential oil and the compound eucalyptol, which is used in mouthwash and fixed vapor rub and things, and of course this originally came from Australia. In one particular case that is very exciting to us, we found compounds in Alaska cedar that once identified turned out to also exist in citrus products, in orange peels, grapefruit peels, and these compounds can be made from the processing of oranges and grapefruits around the world. And I think at this point a lot of this is a byproduct. And these materials are, I consider them food grade because they are found in food. And so this is a very exciting development for us, and we're looking forward to implementing these new the best we can and interacting with industry to get them to pick up these new pesticides and repellents.
In the Bible, the book of Genesis tells us that the fruit of the tree was used for food and the leaf for medicine. And so it is with many plants. One part is used for food and another is used for medicine. Hippocrates said, "Let your food be your medicine, and your medicine be your food." There is no clear distinction between food and medicine. They are all part of a vast continuum.
to really achieve a medicinal therapeutic value or result from herbal medicine, it's probably more pertinent to make a medicine such as an infusion or a decoction. If you're wanting to apply a topical application, a poultice is a good remedy to make. Obviously with a tincture you are going to get a better storage life. I mean, a tincture, if it's made with a 90% alcohol, can last 1 to 2 years, maybe even longer. And obviously an infusion or a decoction have a limited shelf life. If infusions are basically stronger than a tea, you want about 1 ounce to 1 pint of boiling water. You let it sit for up to 20 minutes. Usually they're done with leaves and flowers. A decoction is something you would make from usually a root. Occasionally, if you want to extract a mineral, you would want to decoct something. So a good example of that is red clover flowers. Red clover is, the Latin name of that is Trifolium pratense. A wonderful, wonderful herb for balancing hormones, wonderful, wonderful source of iron, really amazing source of minerals. And the best way to extract minerals is by gently boiling the plant. So here's a good exception of where you would boil a flower, but generally it's for roots. So roots like dandelion, yellow dock, these are all roots that we would gather and harvest and simmer and drink the decoction. Tincturing is, as I said, another way to make herbal medicines. It gives you a longer shelf life. Plus, you're going to extract different constituents, and some plants, of course, have the constituents we want are only able to be extracted by alcohol. So a good example would be something that has an alkaloid that you want to extract, or a lactone, or glycosides. These are all things that are going to be extracted into the alcohol and not into the water.
Calendula is one of the best herbs for treating local skin problems. It may be used for any external bleeding or wound, bruising or strains. Internally, it acts as a valuable herb for digestive inflammation, and thus it may be used in the treatment of gastric and duodenal ulcers. As a cholagogue, it will aid in the relief of gallbladder problems, and also, through this process, helps in many of the vague digestive complaints that are called indigestion. Calendula has marked antifungal activity and may be used both internally and externally to combat such infections. As an emmenagogue, it has a reputation of helping delayed menstruation and painful periods. It is in general a normalizer of the menstrual process. The whole flower tops, or just the petals, are collected between June and September. They should be dried with great care to ensure there is no discoloration.
And then this, that's got oil in it, oil in the water. Very strong, very aromatic. So this rosemary is a beautiful product. This I began with just water. So the concentration of the hydrosoil is not very good. So I'll wait. And I'll save that. Oh, shoot. Now we have catastrophia.
The products of distillation are basically essential oils and waters. The waters are also called hydrolates or hydrosols. The essential oils are used in a variety of end products such as candle making, soap making, food flavorings, beverages, perfumes, whereas the hydrolates or hydrosols, the waters, which separate from the distillate, the product of distillation, are used in lotions, sprays. Some people use hydrosols in the laundry, or they put it in a steam iron when they're ironing their clothing. You can put it in a spray bottle and use it as a moisturizer. Well, distillation goes back to the early days of alchemy, and the basic concept is to separate the spirit of a plant from the body of the plant. And the method used to isolate that spirit, the essence or the essential oil, was distillation. There are several different types of distillation that are used for extracting aromatic oils from plant material. There's steam distillation, where you produce steam in a steam boiler and introduce it into the plant and then condense that steam and separate your oil and water. There's hydrodistillation, where your plant material is floating freely within the water, and that's for plants such as rose petals or neroli. The first steam distillation, you can do peppermint. There's steam and water distillation, where you have steam, water being boiled in the same container as your plant, but kept separate from the plant. In other words, it's not touching it. The plant's separated from the boiling water by a grid, and that's a steam and water distillation. There are other methods of extracting essential oils, but in my opinion, distillation, particularly steam distillation, is probably the best and most efficient.
We harvested fresh rosemary leaves from a local farm, and we brought them back and weighed them so that we know how much plant material we have. We put it inside the distiller and boil the water in the bottom of the pot. The steam rises through the column and passes through the plant material, eventually coming through the bird's beak and down into the serpentine. Serpentine is a condenser, and it cools the steam back down to its liquid state. And as you can see, the steam is now a liquid once again. So what we have here is hydrosol. And that's the waters that separate from the essential oils coming from the rosemary. Eventually we'll have enough oil so that it will rise up and come dripping out this tube. What that is dust and pollen and insects and things like that that collect on the plant itself. And so it makes there's a layer of water, a layer of mud, as they call that, and then the essential oil. And so the oil has to come up and pass through that to make it work. So now what I'll do here, staff, is just raise the water level using this inside here. And the oil is floating on top, so as I raise the water level, the oil rises and then comes out this tube.
Balm is an excellent carminative herb that relieves spasms in the digestive tract and is used in flatulent dyspepsia. The volatile oil appears to act on the interface between the digestive tract and nervous system. It has been described by some herbalists as being tropho-restorative to the nervous system, similar in some ways to oats. It may be used in migraine that is associated with tension, neuralgia, anxiety-induced palpitations, insomnia. Balm has a tonic effect on the heart and circulatory system, causing mild vasodilation of the peripheral vessels, thus acting to lower blood pressure. It can be used in feverish conditions such as influenza. Hot water extracts have antiviral properties. Its hormone-regulating effects are well documented in the laboratory. Freeze-dried aqueous extracts inhibit many of the effects of thyroid-stimulating hormone on the thyroid gland by interfering with the binding of this hormone to plasma membranes and by inhibiting the enzyme idothyronine deiodinase in vitro. It also inhibits the receptor binding and biological activity of immunoglobulins in the blood of patients with Graves' disease, a condition which results in hyperthyroidism. The leaves may be harvested 2 or 3 times a year between June and September. They are gathered by cutting off the young shoots when they are approximately 30 centimeters long. A major event for the distillation of essential oils came with the invention of a coiled cooling pipe in the 11th century. Persian by birth, Avicenna invented a coiled pipe which allowed the plant, vapor and steam to cool down more effectively than previous distillers that used a straight cooling pipe. Avicenna's contribution led to more focus on essential oils and their benefits. In the manufacture of essential oils using the method of water distillation, the botanic material is completely immersed in water and the still is brought to the boil. This method protects the oils, so extracted to a certain degree, since the surrounding water acts as a barrier to prevent it from overheating. The process of water steam distillation is basically a marriage between normal water distillation and that of steam distillation. The botanical material is immersed in water in a still, which has a heat source. Plus, live steam is fed into the water and botanical material mixture. When steam distillation is used in the manufacture and extraction of essential oils, the botanical material is placed in a still.
So this is technically not steam distillation then?
This is steam and water distillation.
Steam and water.
Yeah, steam and water distillation.
But is the plant material in the water?
When the plant material is here, and the water is here, the plant material is not in the water.
Right.
That's a steam and water distillation.
Right, but when the plant material's in here and the water's in here, it's
That's
a
a
water,
hydrodistillation.
Okay, so that definitely needs to be explained,
Okay,
because people are just not
Okay,
understanding
so what
it.
we did, and I only did it as an illustration today, was we put the rosemary directly into the water
Right,
to show them the configuration of a hydrodistiller.
right, that really confused people, and they couldn't understand why you would boil the plant, and that would
Well,
damage the oil.
I'll tell you what, with rosemary, it didn't do so much damage. Because rosemary has a waxy coat, we have to break down that waxy coat on the needle, and boiling it releases the oil very rapidly. I don't see anything destroyed by that.
So in this unit, where is the water?
The water is in the very bottom, in the pot.
How much is in there?
We have about 60 liters of water.
And there's a grate separating the water from the plant material.
Yeah, the plant material from the water
So the plant material is where?
is starting here, suspended above the water. It's not touching the water. So we're generating steam just by boiling water, and that steam then passes through the plant. We're not adding any pressure. The only pressure that will build up in the system is if I crank up the heat too high. And that's not pushing pressure through the plant, that's just pressurizing the container. Steam distillation is where you produce steam under pressure and you introduce it into the plant material. The quality and quantity of essential oils you'll obtain by distillation. If, for instance, you're interested in distilling a pine tree, there's no sense to distill that oil in the summer because the oil is being used by the tree as a refrigerant to cool down the needle. So it's being pumped out into the atmosphere. If you're looking at a plant such as lavender, you need to distill it while it's flowering. That's when the most essential oils will be within that plant. Harvest time during the day, if you're going to harvest something like rose petals, you have to do it in the morning. You have about a 30-day window of opportunity for harvesting. If you harvest during the heat of the day, again, your essential oils are pumped into the atmosphere, and your yield is going to be very low. In generally speaking, many of the plants in the mint family should be harvested while the plant is flowering. At that time, the most essential oils and the best quality are being produced by the plant. Although the quality of essential oils produced from wild-gathered plant material is very good, there's an environmental problem, the impact of harvesting or over-harvesting. If we look historically in the United States at plants such as ginseng or golden seal, they've been over-harvested from the wild, and now they pretty much no longer exist in the wild. So the basic concept is to cultivate something that will produce an essential oil and grow it for essential oils. In my opinion, I think it's a good idea to cultivate essential oil plants and leave the ones that are growing naturally in the wild for others to enjoy and to create. Here in Greece, you walk through the fields and the aromatic ambiance is fabulous. I would not like to see that disappear. So considering the environment, harvesting in the wild is not really a good idea.
Our world blesses us with herbs, with leaves of life. In the face of blind abuse and rape of nature, we discover remedies that can help us survive the impact of humanity's mistakes. To heal ourselves, we must know ourselves, and all of ecology, spirituality, intuition, and common sense tells us that we are all one.
You probably are using herbs in your daily life, whether you think about it or not. But if you want to use herbs actually for medicine, more as therapy, I think it's really important to ensure firstly that you find good advice from a herbal practitioner or a natural medicine practitioner, someone who really knows what they're doing, who have been well trained. If it's more simple things, like say for example you have a cold and wish to try natural medicine, herbal medicine before it gets worse, by all means you can do really simple things. You can either go out into your garden and gather some thyme and sage if you have, or if not, you can go to your kitchen cupboard and take the thyme and sage that you cook with, and take half a teaspoon of each, pour some boiling water over it, let it sit for 5 minutes, strain it, add a little honey, and just sip on it. And you're using herbal medicine. You can also take the same product and gargle with it, and gargle your throat to clear a sore throat. And that's using herbal medicine. It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Familiar and exotic fragrances that tease and delight fill the air. The songs of birds awaken and soothe. The colors of flowers stir emotions and resonate subtly with our body and mind. And the appearance of an animal causes her spirit to soar. Most people look for the sacred in the unusual and often dramatic supernatural experience. But the irony is that the divine mysteries are found in the ordinary, the mundane, and the natural aspects of life softly whispering to us.
Σαν την υγεία σου έχασες, σαν την υγεία σου έχασες και θες να την κερδίσεις. Και θες να την κερδίσεις μόνο με βότανα της γης θα την ξαναποκτήσεις. Απίγανο και βάρσαμο, απίγανο και βάρσαμο τσιγής το χαμομήλι. Τσιγής το χαμομήλι, τη μυριστιά μπερόριζα που δένουν στο μαντίλι. Άιντες που δένουν στο μαντίλι. Πάρε το κόκκινο χορτό, πάρε το κόκκινο χορτό και βάλε κουτσουνάδα. Και βάλε κουτσουνάδα που κάνουν κόκκινο κλαδός του ήλιου την πυράδα. Φύλλα σικιάς και αμυγδαλιάς και φύλλα ματζουράνας. Και φύλλα ματζουράνας φλισκούνι που μοσχοβολά σαν κόρφος κάθε μάνας. Το Μαϊντανό, το Σελήνο και την Αντωναΐδα. Και την Αντωναΐδα, τα γούδουρα, τα γλακιχτού, το κλάδο και τα φύλλα. 40 είναι όλα βράσετα, 40 είναι όλα βράσετα και γέμισε μια σκάφη. Και γέμισε μια σκάφη και διώξε απ' το κορμάκι σου τσιπώνους και τα πάθη. Ω, τσιπώνους και τα πάθη.